Hi everyone. Welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be kind of dissecting and digging into the frequently asked questions that I get from both individuals, the labor force, the workforce, and organizations when we start talking about the 4-day work week. And the reason why I want to talk about it today is to debunk some of these myths going around and get through some of the bias we have about 4-day work week, because the organizations that are doing it are thriving. They're moving out of this survivorship mode, and it's more than the 4-day work week. It's about that actual work-life integration. Let's stop talking about work-life balance, because that makes it sound like two different sides of a spectrum that you're always balancing. And that's what it feels like. That's why it's exhausting. And so when we talk about work-life integration, they are cohesive with one another. It is your life, right? You don't just live to work anymore. It's part of your life. And let's be real, we take work home with us, and we take those conversations and those difficult things that are happening home with us. So you're never going to achieve a balance. And I found that when I went into entrepreneurship and my small business is I have the personal freedom to do all the wellness things now, and I was even more exhausted and less of a paycheck. So I realized that it's not about a balance, because I was always thinking about work then as a creative nature, as someone who's always networking and contacting people. It was about integration. It was about how do we do both? How do we do both work and life without burning ourselves out and maintaining this production? So let's talk about the 4-day work week, because it's interesting that some perspectives are on board and they're like, how do we do this? I want to do this. I want to have this conversation with my organization. And then there's some people that are like, well, I didn't get it and I had to put in the work. And obviously they have some deep feelings about that, and that's why it needs to change. Let's do better for the next generation. And the interesting thing is when I have this conversation, top talent said, regardless of salary, regardless of benefits, they would go to a place with a 4-day work week over a place that didn't. Let me repeat that. Top talent would choose a 4-day work week organization, regardless of salary and benefits, as long as it's fair for the work that they're doing, over an organization that has a 5-day work week. That's the difference. Because when you say 4-day work week, that means your operation is functional. When you say 4-day work week, that means everyone is on board, aligned, and knows what's going on. When you say 4-day work week, that means everyone has trust, not only in each other internally, but with their customers externally, to do only 4 days. Doesn't that sound more energizing to onboard with? Doesn't that sound like an organization that you want to be part of? The organizations that are doing it, when I talk to them, I'm like, hey, if my business crashes, I want to come to your place because you got it together. You are aligned, you're communicating, you trust each other, your workflow is seamless. I don't know what I would do in your organization, but I would come work for you. That's what you want to get to, right? We're talking about the recruitment crisis, right? That no matter what you do, you can't get people in the door. There's just job boards flooded with nonsense, right? Just job descriptions. Like, it doesn't mean anything. It's because we're all doing the same thing in traditional ways, traditional approaches, and we're in a modern day world where things are advancing faster and faster. So let's just dig into this for a little bit here. The research has been going on in the UK for a couple years, like pre-pandemic age, so before 2020, and they have been studying this 4-day work week because of a wellness initiative. So they actually started from the wellness side. In the US, I feel like we're doing it because of labor demanding it. But in the UK, they've actually dug into this and been trialing it out for a couple years, and they have seen a huge decrease in burnout and an increase in well-being and this work-life integration, which naturally, if your employees feel good, they produce good work. When employees are rested, they are creative and innovative and can make those decisions much faster. So when you talk about 4-day work week, we're also solving some of this mental health crisis, some of this burnout crisis where half of the workforce is in burnout. And we're getting them back to this liveliness and high productivity where they can thrive again in your teams and produce and go home. So the UK has been doing it for years, has proven this out. Japan, which I was shocked because we were owned by a Japanese parent company, and they were pretty hardcore, not only on data and metrics, but they work a ton of hours, even more than us in the US. So I was shocked by this study in Japan, and it was for Microsoft. And they initiated the 4-day work week. And so they're really fighting cultural norms out there, because the norm is you put in the work and that is what you do. That's your everything, is your career. And so they're fighting big cultural norms out there, more than we are in the US. And in Japan, because also a wellness, and they're seeking high productivity, and they have really good metrics that they track, Microsoft started the 4-day work week and had a 40% increase in productivity. So you have a very data driven software company, Microsoft, and a very career focused culture, and they initiated the 4-day work week. 40% increase in productivity, and I definitely trust their data in that type of culture. So kudos to them. If they can do it, I definitely think in the US we can do it. Now, Boston College, let's go to the US now. Let's go to our national turf. Boston College also implemented this, and they saw an immediate increase in turnover that they were having at their college. And then they actually had higher attraction from the outside when they were recruiting, that they were having more discussions about what the 4-day work week looks like than they were on salary, than they were on benefits. So do you see the attraction? And that was at Boston College. So that's East Coast, a little bit more faster moving than here in the Midwest, most of the area and demographic that I serve. So let's dig into the 4 common questions that I get from individuals and organizations when we begin talking about the 4-day work week. The first question that I would get is the root cause concerns. And that goes into the workforce energy management model. And it addresses those root cause dysfunctions in your operations. So they're concerned about lower productivity because you're losing a day. They're concerned that the workload won't be distributed evenly, that it's all going to end up on one person, or one person's going to end up working on Friday anyways. They're concerned about the performance. Well, let's look at workforce energy management and the overall model of this. So this model came from working with clients on disengagement to get their teams to engagement. This came from moving teams from this exhaustion to excellence. This came from burnout prevention tools and techniques. This came from how do we continue production in an ever-changing world and keep our people along the way, because the change curve is going so fast, and forcing people through change versus embracing it. So these 4 factors I have been working with clients on and vetting out what does this mean in their organizations, and it's starting to come out in different conversations, like unlimited PTO and 4-day work week. And when we start working on this, those things become possible. Because let's look at the categories. Our north, our navigate, is everyone is in the same direction, right? You can be scattered across the woods and still know the end outcome that you want. We're guiding the direction of the team. Our east is expedition. We all know things, when they're hard, are much easier when we have good people around us, when we have people that understand their skill sets and they're putting forth that value. We know when people communicate well, regardless of the crisis, it's much easier to get through such challenge. So we're going to work on strengthening that communication, not only within the team, but cross departments. Oh boy, you couldn't imagine what different departments say about each other. So we work a lot on cross-department functionality and communication. And then also the mediums that we're using, because this person likes to use that medium, and that person likes to just text this person even though they're off. And this person doesn't even talk to their boss. So they're just going to go around and talk to someone else and gossip. So we work a lot on all those type of factors within that category. Synergy, our south, is our building team energy. This is building team trust. And then workflow. So productivity optimization. We're not adding more activities. We're optimizing so we create those efficiencies. And that's a lot about systems and how we do those pass-offs and getting rid of all the noise that comes with it. So that's the workforce energy management model. It's exactly what it seems, where we energize the workforce because we're getting rid of all of the nonsense and the drainers. All right? There's no death by meeting anymore. There's no pointing fingers. We're in it together. We're utilizing that compass. So when you look at the concerns of workload and pass-offs and performance, The workforce energy management addresses all of those by creating functionality within your operation. The next question that usually comes up by organizations and individuals is, isn't there less work being done? Now, if you picture this, picture your work week. You work Monday through Friday, or maybe you work on the weekends, but you work 5 days. If I say you only have 4 days to get the same workload done, you're going to have some overwhelm. Process those emotions. But then you're going to shift focus to what's important, the priorities. What actually needs to be done? Do you see how sudden all the noise, all the fill-in work gets removed? And this is Parkinson's law. Parkinson's law is essentially we will fill the time with the time given. So if you have a task and you have 40 hours, you're going to go less production and out. All right, that's Parkinson's law. Now, say I gave you less time. I'm not rushing you. I'm just giving less time because that's all we really need to do is that specific task. You're going to get it done. Boom, right? You're not going to take 40 hours to do it. And we work a lot on the mindset shift in productivity to focus on outcomes and not activities. Because if I would say, keep the same activities, just do it in 40 hours or 4 days, do it in 4 days, that is burnout. That is overwhelm. That's double duty work. You're not going to get good outcomes, good quality from that. So the first mind shift in isn't less work being done is refocusing that you're just doing activities. If you reframe it, right? So mindset, reframe it to what outcomes do we need? You will see a lot of activities disappear. That's the noise. That's the inefficiencies. And so when you eliminate those inefficiencies, you start to see a workflow design. You start to see how things are passed off, how we're using the system, how the information in the system, the automation in the system. You're starting to see how people communicate or don't communicate, and you can be able to address those gaps in those skill sets. So when we're focused on attracting talent, we're focused on getting people re-engaged by having a really nice workflow design, by eliminating those inefficiencies, you're going to be attracting that type of talent because no one wants to work in something that's still paper. No one wants to work in something that I have to do 5 steps when it could be 1. No one wants to communicate when I have to walk over to this desk, but then I also have to talk to that person, and then I have to email this person, but this person prefers text, so then I got to do that. Can you imagine training a new hire on that? That's that tribal knowledge that's not important. That's dysfunctional tribal knowledge. Tribal knowledge is like those experiences with customers that we've had and that last product design that failed and why it failed. That's tribal knowledge, right? Things that can only be passed on because someone experienced it and maybe it wasn't documented well. The tribal knowledge you don't want to pass on is the inefficiencies and dysfunction because someone had personal preferences. So is there less work being done? No, it's been proven by the research that I said in the beginning of the video that actually more work can be done because you're focused. Now, the next question I get is customers. We have to serve our customers. Yeah, otherwise you'd be out of business. If you want to serve your customers, you have to link it back to your mission then. Communicate it out to your customers. So if you actually are going to be closed on that 5th day, you can communicate out to your customers that when you are available, and if you for sure need a contact on that Friday, here's some resources you can go through. We'll be back on Monday. Now, I came from manufacturing, right? So we were 24/7 operation. That wasn't going to be possible. Well, non-traditional office jobs are still doing the 4-day work week approach, and they're doing it with staggered shifts. So they have a Monday through Thursday crew and a Friday through Monday crew. Do you see that they can still do 4 days and cover it? Now, there's some groups that will do overlap Monday through Thursday, Tuesday through Friday. Or there's some people that actually prefer time off during the week more. Maybe they hunt or fish. They have appointments. They take care of someone at home. They could even shift it to be Wednesday through Saturday, right? So you still get nice overlap in your team, but also you're covering more ground. And that person that wants off during the week, they don't mind working Saturday, right? They shifted their schedule. So these overlap pods, you can have a group that only wants to work Monday through Thursday. You can have a group that only wants to work Tuesday through Friday, or you can rotate them every month, right? So this month I get Mondays off, and then the next month I get Fridays off. However the team wants to do it. There's all different forms. Now, there's a company that I talked to that has been doing that, the Monday through Thursday, Tuesday through Friday rotation, since 2019. They said, one, their operation has went to a functional capacity that they couldn't even imagine. Because in order to keep that, everyone had to be on board with functionality within the operation, which means using the systems, communicating well, everyone aligned. And so they went in wanting the 4-day work week, but what they got was energy, workforce energy, because they had to be efficient in order to have that privilege of the 4-day work week. And he said he would never go back. He actually can't even imagine what 5 days would look like. And he said if they would switch back to 5 days, he said on that 5th day, they probably would produce minimal work, because what would they be doing? And that was interesting to me, that again, Parkinson's law, they were filling time because it was 5 days, 40 hours. So I keep saying 40 hours, but you can also do 32 hours. There are people that don't want to work 10-hour shifts. There are people that will actually reduce their hours as long as they can keep benefits. Okay, allow them to do that. See, when someone's reducing their hours, it's usually because they're spending their time elsewhere. Maybe in a side gig, maybe in fractional work. Maybe they have, again, the care that they need to do at home. Taking care of elderly parents, taking care of special need kids, taking care of kids in general, taking care of a dog. Let them go down to 32 hours. All right? Adjust their salary accordingly. Or if they're hourly, it will do its own math because they're not getting an extra 8 hours. And allow them to do that, because again, if you are working on that workforce energy management, they're still aligned, they're still communicating, they're still providing value and trust to their team. The workflow's the same. You're still getting output. And let's be real. If you could choose a top talent for zero, or if you could choose a top talent to have for 32 hours a week, or not get them at all, you would choose the 32 hours a week. So why are we fighting this reality? If I had a top talent, if I had someone who specialized and they just jived with the team, and the interviews, everyone was vibing, I knew it was a good fit, I would take them for 32 hours, even though we need 40, because there's somewhere in their job description that is just noise. That is just maybe even just tactical work that I can put somewhere else. We could even get a different position of someone that wants to do lower hour work. So just keep that in mind, that we need to have these conversations, because there's actually people that would move down to 32 hours. Maybe they're guiding into retirement. Maybe they have really busy home life, and they would jump on this. And I would rather have you jump on that before you lose them, because organizations that are offering it, they're going to go to. And I'm going to suggest them to that, because again, work-life integration, we want to make sure that they're thriving and not just surviving. Now, the fourth and last question I want to talk about on this live stream is alternative options. So I understand that this is not a good fit for everyone, that some people have been groomed for 5 days. They produce at 5 days. They like that structure, that routine. And it's important to match up to those different work styles. There's also people that don't thrive in remote structures. They want to be in office. Again, how can you do that? There's also work styles that need that connection and overlap with their team. So keep that in mind. So I'm a high I. That's influence. That's yellow in disc. And that type of work style wants connection. It wants community. So if you have a team rotation where we never get to see the other half, that's going to slowly get to me, because I never get to see those people. So if you have a lot of high I's in your team, maybe an overlap day is going to be a better flow and workflow design. So really understand your work styles. And that's why, again, I'm a big advocate of DISC, is because if you don't know your workforce, you're just guessing and assuming, and this 4-day work week is going to be dysfunctional as you roll it out. So the more you know about your team and their work styles, the easier this will be to roll out. The other thing that you'll need to do when you take these steps is, especially when you trial it out, is real-time feedback. Because if this team's rotating Monday through Thursday and this team's rotating Tuesday through Friday, and we're not addressing things real time, it can get dysfunctional pretty fast by just having 2 days where people aren't overlapping. That's where gossip fills in. That's where assumptions start to fill in? And do you see where that dysfunction can start to increase instead of production? And so we want to make sure that we're giving real-time feedback and communication to each other, or that can create a monster that was never really there, because people like to assume. A great example of this is my office had a window to the parking lot, and cars would come and go because we had multiple plant facilities. And every so often, someone would be like, "Oh, did you see Tony? He left early." And I'm like, what? I didn't see it because I'm overloaded with work. I'm not watching out the window for the birds and the cars coming and going. And they're like, "Yeah, you'll see him when he comes back. He's been disappearing." Well, we had 3 plants. He's probably just at another plant. So I just reassured him, if it's an issue, his leader will let me know. And we do have other kind of labor law checks, like gate codes and door codes, that we can check if it becomes an issue. You have to work on getting rid of that mentality in your office of those that watch people come and go, those that are watching their work hours when it's not their job, right? A good response that I had in my head was, do you not have enough work to do that you're watching people come and go all the time? And I had to check myself. The real reason was that person was supposed to do something for that other person and they didn't. So now they're watching them. They're watching their work hours. So again, we have to work on functionality between departments to make sure that we're addressing things real time. And then the biggest thing to do to start these steps is leadership training, team building training, because if you don't have those pieces of the workforce energy management model, everyone's on their own direction. They're not communicating well. They don't trust each other. You have low team energy. Workflows dysfunction. People aren't using systems. This isn't attainable. And then you're going to do it. It's going to fail. And then it's going to be in the history books that we can't do the 4-day work week because last time we did it, it failed. Well, it's because you didn't address the root causes of problems in your operation. It would have been successful if people were communicating in the same direction, had trust and energy with each other, and nice system flow. So if you're interested in learning more, go ahead and connect with me. I'm out on LinkedIn. There's a burnout community hub out on Patreon. It's free right now, so go ahead and grab your free membership for a month. And then I'm out on YouTube putting videos out around workforce energy management factors, really linking up where individuals and organizations can meet together for productivity in an ever demanding world while preventing burnout. We'll see you soon.